In this video I will show you how I made this unique looking moss terrarium. The container that we are going to be using is actually a vase, but after some searching I found this old coffee jar lid that perfectly fit onto the bottom. And for the floating part I used the cork to keep the humidity in. Now let's finally begin with the build. First I add the drainage layer to the floating part. I use sand for this because it's a smaller build, but for bigger builds I like to use Lego clay balls. Pro tip: if you don't want to get sand all over the place, use a tunnel or, like I did, a test tube to put the sand into the container. This works really well with small containers or when you have to put sand in a specific place. This way the soil doesn't become soggy or moldy. The drainage layer is very important because it will hold the excess water if you water too much. Speaking about soil, I added substrate straight on top of the sand. If I would have used Lego clay balls, I would probably use a mesh barrier so the soil doesn't go in the drainage layer. But when using sand, this isn't necessary. The soil I'm using is a self-made substrate mix consisting of compost, sand, moss and orchid bark. Enough about substrate, now let's talk about plants. Using my tweezers I covered the entire area with moss. You could leave it like this, but I found it a little bit boring. So I add some small crushed up stones. This will bring more texture to the terrarium and will make it more interesting. And to finish the first part of the build, I added a Fittonia cutting in the middle. As long as the humidity stays high, this cutting should root itself into the earth and will be able to grow. This will also be the focal point of the terrarium. The second part of this build is pretty much the same. I didn't use a drainage, however, because it wouldn't have use. So I just added the dirt on top of the lid and I covered it with some moss. After that I add some stones. I use bigger stones because it's also a bigger container. It still looked a little boring though, so I add some more plants. This time I didn't use Fittonia, but I used Ficus pimila. It's a creeping plant that will cover the entire surface. And that's it. I just add some water off camera and I close the container. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this one. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments.